Strength is not something you are given. It is not a gift from society, not a favor from others, not something that drops from the sky like luck. Strength is something you decide to create, day after day, in silence and darkness, where no applause exists. Machiavelli understood this truth with absolute clarity. He knew that the man who refuses to break, the man who refuses to be bent, is not born that way. He makes himself that way. Nothing and nobody can ever break you, control you, or stop you if you decide, once and for all, that you will not be broken. The world is filled with forces that try to bend you: fear, manipulation, betrayal, disappointment, rejection, humiliation, failure. From the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, these forces surround you. Sometimes they come from enemies, sometimes from friends, and sometimes from your own mind. But what Machiavelli teaches is that control exists only when you give it away. No one can hold you like a puppet unless you allow the strings to be tied to your soul. The secret is terrifyingly simple. If you choose to be unbreakable, if you choose to be ungovernable by weakness, then no one has any real power over you. Think of every empire that fell. Think of every king dethroned, every general defeated, every wealthy man ruined. Did their destruction come from sheer external power, or did it come because somewhere inside they allowed weakness to take root? Every downfall begins with surrender. Every collapse begins with a small fracture in the will. A man who refuses to surrender cannot be stopped. You can imprison his body, but not his mind. You can silence his tongue, but not his resolve. You can isolate him, betray him, strip him of wealth, power, friends. But if he refuses to bend, he remains unconquered. Machiavelli looked at the world without illusions. He stripped away morality as a mask, stripped away noble lies, stripped away comforting illusions. What remained was raw power, and the truth that in this world, only the unbreakable endure. If you wish to live free, if you wish to rise above, if you wish to be untouchable, then you must forge yourself into something that cannot be controlled. You must decide to become a man who cannot be manipulated by praise, seduced by comfort, or paralyzed by fear. Understand this. Most men are broken not by blows, but by whispers, not by chains, but by comforts, not by threats, but by illusions. They are softened by promises of pleasure, destroyed by their desire for approval, weakened by their fear of losing status. This is why the world is so easily controlled by a few. The many are addicted to being liked, addicted to safety, addicted to belonging. But if you strip all of that away, if you stand alone and embrace the reality that you need nothing but your will, then suddenly no power on this earth can truly touch you. Consider what it means to be unstoppable. It does not mean that obstacles disappear. It means that when obstacles rise, you rise higher. It means that pain becomes fuel, rejection becomes clarity, and betrayal becomes a sharpening blade. It means that the blows meant to destroy, you become the very training that makes you invincible. Machiavelli would say, "Fortune controls those who are weak, but fortune obeys those who are strong enough to seize it." The first law of being unbreakable is this: expect nothing from anyone. Do not wait for others to rescue you, to understand you, to reward you, to give you permission. The man who waits is already chained. The man who expects is already controlled. Freedom begins when you owe nothing to anyone's approval, when you can stand in complete isolation and still remain whole. You have escaped the grip of the world. The second law: control yourself before anyone else can. A man who cannot master his desires, his anger, his fear, his impulses, is an easy slave. You cannot be unbreakable if you are addicted to comfort, if you are owned by lust, if you are enslaved to the need for validation. The strongest chains are invisible. They are built inside your own cravings. Break those chains, and you break free forever. The third law: use betrayal, do not be destroyed by it. Every powerful man will be betrayed. Every strong individual will be hated. Machiavelli warned rulers to expect treachery, not to be surprised by it. If you are shocked by betrayal, you are still naive. Instead, study it. When someone betrays you, they reveal their true nature. This knowledge is priceless. Let betrayal harden you, sharpen you, and teach you how the world really works. If you are unbreakable, betrayal becomes not a wound, but a weapon in your hand. The fourth law, be feared by weakness, not loved by it. Love is fragile. Love is conditional. Love is easily manipulated. Fear, however, commands respect. When people know that you cannot be bent, that you cannot be bribed, that you cannot be guilted or seduced, they will fear crossing you. Fear is not cruelty, it is respect rooted in strength. To be unbreakable is to radiate the energy that says, nothing can move me, nothing can own me. The fifth law, never beg for freedom. Take it. The world does not hand out freedom like gifts. Power never surrenders without force. If you want to be free, you must take control of yourself, your mind, your environment. You must tear away dependence, one chain at a time. Do not wait for society. Do not wait for laws. Do not wait for justice. Freedom is seized, not granted. Look at history's greatest figures, men who built empires, men who became legends. Were they given permission? No, they took it. Were they universally loved? No, they were hated, feared, resisted, betrayed, and yet they carved their names into time itself. They refused to be stopped. They were not perfect. In fact, their flaws were often immense, but their will was stronger than any opposition. To walk this path is not easy. Most men cannot handle it. They want to be controlled because control feels safe. They want to be owned because ownership feels comforting. They would rather obey than stand alone. But if you are listening to these words, if you feel the stirring in your chest, then you are not most men. You are meant for something greater. You are meant to carry the weight of freedom on your shoulders, to live unbreakable, to be the one who cannot be controlled, cannot be stopped. Every time you doubt yourself, remember this: doubt is the enemy's voice planted in your mind. Every time you fear rejection, remember, rejection only matters if you worship approval. Every time you fear failure, remember, failure only destroys those who believe it is final. The truth is simple. Nothing and nobody can ever break you unless you consent. Strength is tested not in moments of ease, but in storms of chaos. When the winds of life tear at your soul, when betrayal strikes you from the shadows, when failure burns your dreams to ashes, that is when you discover if you are breakable or unbreakable. Most men collapse under such weight. They curse fate, they abandon their vision, they sink into despair. But those who understand Machiavelli's truth refuse to bend. They take the storm into themselves, they let the lightning scar them, and they rise from it harder, sharper, untouchable. Every storm is an opportunity to forge another layer of armor, another proof that nothing and nobody can ever stop you. A man who refuses to be broken becomes terrifying to the world. He becomes a force that others cannot understand. Because most people live on their knees. They live begging for mercy, begging for approval, begging for ease. They compromise their soul for comfort, and then wonder why they feel hollow. But the man who refuses to kneel, who accepts pain and isolation, and struggle as his companions, is a man who rises above the control of the crowd. He belongs to himself, and only to himself. There is no greater freedom than this. Do not mistake unbreakable will for arrogance. It is not arrogance to own yourself. It is not arrogance to reject chains. It is the highest form of discipline. Because to be unbreakable, you must constantly sharpen your mind, strengthen your body, and guard your soul against corruption. Machiavelli saw rulers fall not because they lacked armies or wealth, but because they allowed corruption to rot them from within. Weakness always begins small. A little indulgence, a little complacency, a little surrender to comfort, and slowly, almost invisibly, the strong become soft, the free become slaves, the unbreakable become shattered. This is why you must live awake. Every moment ask yourself, am I giving away my power? Am I letting someone else's approval control my actions? Am I letting fear stop me? Am I letting comfort own me? If the answer is yes, you are already giving the world the keys to your prison. Nothing and nobody can ever break you, control you, or stop you if you live by this one principle. Deny the world your consent. They cannot enslave you unless you agree to kneel. They cannot silence you unless you allow fear to choke your tongue. They cannot defeat you unless you choose to accept defeat. Every external weapon loses its edge against a will that refuses to break. Chains cannot bind the man who chooses to walk free in his mind. Threats cannot terrify the man who accepts death as part of life. Lies cannot manipulate the man who seeks truth relentlessly. Most people think freedom is political. They think it is given by laws or granted by rulers. Machiavelli knew better. He knew freedom begins within. A man in chains can be freer than a king on a throne if his mind belongs to no one. And a king with power over nations can still be a slave if he is addicted to approval, if he is ruled by fear, if he cannot bear to stand alone. The true unbreakable man does not seek freedom in papers, laws, or governments. He seeks it in his own discipline, his own refusal to surrender. For such a man, no cage can hold him. Understand the psychology of control. The rulers of the world, the manipulators, the deceivers, they do not rely on brute force alone. Force is expensive. Force is dangerous. The true art of control lies in convincing men to control themselves on behalf of others. They convince you that you must seek approval. They convince you that comfort is success. They convince you that rejection is death. And once you believe these lies, you police yourself. You silence your own voice. You break your own will. You surrender before the battle even begins. This is why Machiavelli advised leaders to use fear, illusion, and manipulation. But if you are aware of this strategy, if you see it for what it is, you can make yourself immune. You can become the exception, the man who cannot be manipulated, who cannot be bribed, who cannot be softened by illusions. Such a man is beyond control. Imagine living this way. Imagine waking up and realizing no opinion matters, no rejection matters, no betrayal can wound you, no loss can destroy you. Imagine walking through the world knowing that you have stripped away every weakness, every addiction, every invisible chain. You would terrify people. You would inspire others. You would be hated by the weak and respected by the strong. And above all, you would be free. That is what it means to be unstoppable. Not that life gives you a smooth path, but that every obstacle only makes you greater. Machiavelli understood that power is not for the naive. If you wish to live unbreakable, you must kill your naivety. Stop expecting loyalty from the disloyal. Stop expecting fairness from the unjust. Stop expecting kindness from the ruthless. Accept that betrayal, cruelty, manipulation, and envy are part of this world. When you accept this, you cannot be surprised. And when you cannot be surprised, you cannot be broken. Naivety is weakness because it blinds you to reality. Strength is clarity, the ability to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. When you see clearly, you cannot be controlled by illusions. The path to being unstoppable is simple, but not easy. Every day you must deny the temptations that make men weak. Deny the comfort that makes them soft. Deny the illusions that make them blind. Embrace pain as a teacher, betrayal as a lesson, solitude as a forge. If you can endure all this, then you will reach a place most men never glimpse, the place where you belong only to yourself. That is true power. There will be moments when you feel like giving in, when exhaustion whispers that it would be easier to quit, easier to obey, easier to let someone else take control. But remember, every time you give in, you teach the world how to control you. Every time you surrender, you give your enemies the blueprint to break you. Refuse, even in exhaustion, refuse. Even in fear, refuse. Even in loneliness, refuse. That refusal builds a strength that nothing can shatter. And know this, people will try to shame you. They will call you cold. They will call you ruthless. They will call you arrogant. They will try to make you feel guilty for refusing to kneel. Do not listen. These are the voices of the weak, the controlled, the broken. They want you to be like them, so they are not reminded of their chains. Stand firm. Let their judgment bounce off you like arrows on steel. For in the end, their approval is worthless, and their hatred is powerless. Only your will matters. To live unbreakable is to accept isolation. Not everyone can follow this path. Many will abandon you when you refuse to be controlled. Many will envy you when they see your strength. Many will betray you when they realize they cannot own you. Accept it, wear solitude like armor, because in solitude, you discover the one ally who will never betray you, yourself. That is the final fortress, the one place that can never be conquered if you refuse to abandon it. Remember, nothing and nobody can ever break you, control you, or stop you unless you let them. The measure of a man is not in what he gains, but in what he cannot lose. If there is nothing that can be stripped from you, then there is nothing that can destroy you. Think carefully. What can the world take from you? They can take wealth, but if you are not enslaved by wealth, you remain whole. They can take reputation, but if you are not addicted to reputation, you remain whole. They can take friends, lovers, allies, but if you can walk alone, you remain whole. They can even take life, but if you do not fear death, then what have they truly taken? The secret to being unstoppable lies not in gathering more, but in needing less. The less you need, the less control anyone has over you. The less you cling, the freer you become. That is why the strongest men are often the most detached. They do not worship possessions. They do not worship opinions. They do not worship comfort. Their only worship is strength, discipline, and will. When Machiavelli wrote about power, he knew that men who could not control themselves could never control others. If you want to live free, you must live disciplined. Self-mastery is the foundation of invincibility. Without it, you will be chained by your own desires, enslaved by your own impulses, and deceived by your own illusions. With it, you will become ungovernable, because no bribe, no temptation, no threat will work against you. The unbreakable man does not need to prove anything to anyone. He does not waste his energy on petty battles or on convincing the blind to see. He simply stands as he is, and that is enough. His presence commands respect because it radiates something rare. A man who belongs to no one. Understand that the world will always try to tame you. From childhood, you are taught to obey, to conform, to seek permission, to desire approval. This conditioning never stops. Teachers, employers, governments, even friends and family, they all want to mold you into something manageable, predictable, controllable. But you do not have to accept their mold. You can shatter it. You can refuse to be defined by anyone else. The moment you do, the chains fall away. But here is the danger. Freedom terrifies people. When you refuse to be controlled, you force others to confront their own chains. They will hate you for it. They will call you dangerous, reckless, selfish, and they will try to drag you back into obedience. Resist them. Do not let their fear infect you. Their hatred is proof that you are free. Think of the lion in the wild. He bows to no one. He hunts on his own terms. He answers to no master. Now think of the lion in the cage. He is fed, he is safe. He is admired by crowds, but he has lost his soul. Most men live like caged lions. They trade their freedom for food, their will for approval, their soul for safety. But some refuse the cage. Some choose hunger over chains. Some choose solitude over comfort. Some choose risk over obedience. These are the ones who cannot be broken, the ones who cannot be controlled, the ones who cannot be stopped. Be like them, refuse the cage, even if it costs you everything. For the cage is death disguised as security. The final test of unbreakable strength is this: can you endure being misunderstood? The world will not understand you if you refuse to be controlled. They will invent lies about you. They will slander your name. They will twist your actions. But the man who cannot be stopped does not live for the understanding of others. He lives for his own truth. Let them misunderstand. Let them invent stories. Let them hate. In the end, their noise changes. You may wonder, is it lonely to live this way? Yes, at times. The path of freedom is not crowded, but loneliness is not the enemy. Loneliness is the forge where the strongest men are shaped. If you can walk alone, then you can never be owned. And here is the paradox. Once you no longer need anyone, the world cannot resist you. People are drawn to those who do not need them, to those who radiate independence, to those who walk alone, yet remain powerful. You will attract allies, not by begging, not by dependence, but by strength. People follow the man who does not ask to be followed. They respect the man who does not ask to be respected. They are drawn to the man who stands alone because deep down, they wish they could do the same. So ask yourself, what kind of man will you be? Will you be the one who bends, who obeys, who begs, who kneels? Or will you be the one who rises, who resists, who refuses, who walks free? Nothing and nobody can ever break you, control you, or stop you if you decide right now that you belong only to yourself. This decision is the hardest because it means sacrifice. It means rejecting comforts. It means facing hatred. It means losing what others call precious. But in return, you gain something no one can ever take: true freedom. That freedom is worth more than wealth, more than love, more than life itself. For without freedom, all else is meaningless. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, but boldness is nothing without will. Boldness without discipline collapses. Boldness without clarity destroys itself. Boldness without strength is merely noise. True boldness comes from the man who has mastered himself, who fears nothing, who kneels to no one. That is the kind of boldness that bends fortune, that bends destiny, that bends the world itself. Become that man. Refuse to be broken. Refuse to be controlled. Refuse to be stopped. Walk through fire and let it burn away your weakness. Walk through storms and let them carve your strength. Walk through betrayal and let it sharpen your vision. Walk through solitude and let it make you whole. And when you emerge, the world will see something it cannot touch. A man who belongs only to himself, a man who is free. Remember this as the final word. Nothing and nobody can ever break you, control you, or stop you unless you choose to surrender, and you will not surrender.